It's the Real News Network. I'm Sharmini Pires coming to you from Baltimore. Jeremy Corbyn and Theresa May were on British Sky News and Channel 4 for what may be the closest thing to a debate before the snap election that will take place on June 8th. Here are some of the exchanges from the live audience and the host of the BBC News Night show, Jeremy Paxman, and the candidates.
Now, you had a manifesto commitment which said there would be a cap on the cost of social care. Then your latest manifesto dropped that. And for clarification, the Health Secretary said there will be no cap. And 4 days later, you said there will be a cap.
We had what Jeremy Hunt was talking about and what we referred to in our manifesto was the specific proposal. This proposal was put forward by Andrew Dilnot a few years ago when he was asked by government to look at the social care issue.
Why have you made it impossible for me to vote Labour in this election with your ruthless, short-sighted policies such as 26% corporation tax, the abolishment of zero-hour contracts, £10 an hour minimum wage, and now you want to put VAT on my children's school fees?
Corporation tax was 28% in 2010. This government has reduced it and proposes to reduce it further. We're going to put it back up to 26%. And why are we doing that? Because this country is badly divided between the richest and the poorest. You put corporate tax and tax at the top end down, the division gets greater. Are you happy that so many of our children are going to school with supersized classes? So many of our children are going to school hungry? Are you happy with so many people waiting for hospital operations, 1 million waiting for social care? You don't address these problems by ignoring them.
Can I ask you explicitly, unambiguously, what will the cap be?
Well, as I've just answered, I'm not going to give you a different answer from the one I've given Faisal. No, it's not about not knowing, Jeremy. It's about thinking what... It's about
you don't know, do you?
It's about thinking what the right approach is to get to that figure.
But you don't know.
Joining us now to discuss the live non-debates of Jeremy Corbyn and Theresa May is Thomas Barlow. Thomas has worked as a community organizer and activist, and he's the senior editor and co-founder of the UK independent news outlet Real Media. Welcome back, Thomas.
Hello, good to be back.
So, Thomas, I understand that Theresa May had just refused to debate Corbyn face-to-face. So how did this type of questioning from the audience and being questioned by Paxman actually work out in terms of the viewers watching who are trying to make a decision?
Well, I'm not entirely sure whether it'll have impacted anything very much. You know, it was a mostly dry affair, even though the audience added a bit of flavour to it. I think, you know, Jeremy Corbyn's been campaigning for 2 years now and handled everything, you know, everything that was thrown at him really well. He's quite used to these questions now. And even though the media was kind of not doing its job by asking kind of ridiculous questions about Ireland and so forth, it's what people wanted to hear about. And he came back with very solid answers. He won't have probably convinced many new people, but there'll be a few people on the fence who are like, yeah, I understand he was interested in the peace process. You know, he's not like a supporter of the IRA or anything like that. He just was trying to help bring peace during 1996-97 to that area of the world and so forth, things like that. The only place really, Theresa May, you know, she slipped up, or well, she was put into a corner, and it will have changed some voters' minds, is where Jeremy Paxman pointed out that she's U-turned on a couple of policies very quickly, including one, a key campaign pledge in the manifesto. Within 3 days, she U-turned on it. She's U-turned on a couple of other things almost immediately. Her premiership has actually been very weak, very shaky in that regard, that she's not committed to go through things. And whilst some of us might like politicians who change their minds, what was pointed out is that if you're going to go into Brexit negotiations with a very hard line, a very tough position, and then turn around, people in Brussels are going to be looking at that and thinking, you know, you're a blowhard who changes your mind very quickly and collapses under pressure. And I think that was probably a reasonable point that's going to be made to a lot of people who have been looking at Theresa May as a strong, capable leader for the Brexit negotiations and thinking, actually, maybe she's not strong, maybe she's not capable at negotiating because she doesn't seem to have control over her own ideas or manifesto at this point. By the way, news just in, there is going to be a debate tonight. It was going to be with the minor parties only. Jeremy Corbyn has agreed to join in that debate and has challenged Theresa May to come on to live TV and debate him. And now she's put in a difficult position where she's either going to U-turn again and look like someone who always changes her mind, or she's going to look like a coward who refuses to debate publicly the rest of the political establishment of political parties in this election. So she's been painted into a corner, and that's been quite a interesting and I think quite successful technique and tactic by Jeremy Corbyn at this late stage.
And what was the reaction of the British press for Monday's election? I know Corbyn's been getting a terrible rap on the part of the mainstream networks there. So how were these sessions taken up by the British press?
It gets to a point where what the British press says no longer is going to influence the undecided, because they've been so clearly against Jeremy Corbyn from the start, yet his popularity improves every time people hear policies and manifesto pledges, you know, renationalising the railways, the energy sector. You know, people ask, why does the French state own like a quarter of our energy and it's making money for the French people, but we can't own it? You know, these are things the Conservatives are never going to address. So the press reaction was largely, actually, half the papers, the Daily Mail, the Express, the Metro, they didn't even run front pages on it. It was largely of indifference. Some of them tried to make it seem like there was something interesting going on, that, you know, Theresa May had reaffirmed her pledge to be strong on Europe, and, you know, so forth. But to be honest, it was pretty indifferent and confused at best, the media reaction. I don't think it will shape public opinion very much.
Thomas, you just mentioned that the smaller parties will be participating in the next debate with the other parties and Jeremy Corbyn, whether Theresa May attends or not. What is the significance of having these smaller parties, and why aren't they a part of the larger political arena in the UK?
It's been very interesting living in the UK over the past decade. Smaller parties have become significant, in the political landscape. The Liberal Democrats, for instance, actually got only 2% less votes than the Labour Party in the 2010 elections, despite only getting a third of the seats of the Labour Party, or even less. So the Liberal Democrats had a significant impact on the elections. UKIP have as well. They are all starting to fade, actually. Brexit has for some reason, has taken us back to a two-party system. We do have an area-by-area voting, similar to the US congressional system. So it's not very easy for smaller parties to break through like it would be in proportional representation. But it's not just that. UKIP is under new leadership, chaotic leadership, which has the leader, Paul Nuttall, has been caught openly lying, not only about political things, but things like he was at the Hillsborough disaster and so forth. Now people have been mocking up pictures of him doing the moon landings. His lies have been so outrageous that he's sort of taking UKIP to a place where it is no longer politically relevant. The Greens have been doing a lot of deals with Labour at a local level and supporting Labour just this one time because of the danger that they see the Conservatives pose to the national politics. In the smaller nations, in Wales, Northern Ireland and Scotland, national politics are still playing out as before. So there's Plaid Cymru, Sinn Féin, the Ulster Unionists and the SNP make up a significant part of the political discussion there, but they still make up a small proportion of the overall British population. And the Liberal Democrats have not only shot themselves in the foot by going into coalition with the Conservatives in 2010 and then U-turning on everything that they promised almost immediately with absolutely no regrets or no apologies. But then also coming into this election, they said, we are the party who is against Brexit, but also we will refuse to work with Labour in a coalition government. They've essentially committed themselves to only working with the Conservatives in a coalition government. So any progressive support that Liberal Democrats might have got, they've lost because they've committed to working only with Conservatives and not with Labour, who would be more natural progressive allies. So that's the state of the small parties in the UK. They did make up a very significant part of the UK discussion, but now their impact maybe is decreasing, and what we're seeing is a return to the old two-party politics of Labour versus Conservative.
All right. I thank you so much for joining us, Thomas, and let's do a part 2 on foreign policy.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us here on the Real News Network.